Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm in a different space, more info on that to come, but I am working on the next budget project that I came about. This is a older model Crown electric forklift.
There is nothing like a crown of picking it up and putting it down.
So I'm gonna go ahead and pull back the truck in to get my tools out of it before it gets more snow on top of it, and we'll go ahead and dig in. Hey everyone, I wanted to take a moment to thank every one of you for the support on my new channel. I'm really grateful for all the views and likes I've already received. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and join the Savvy Sprocket family. I have so many exciting projects planned for the future, and I can't wait to share them with you. For now, continue to enjoy some forklift content. So this here is an older, fully electric fork truck. It's the style that doesn't kind of work off a counterbalance because it has the front outriggers down below that supports the main load. I don't know specifically what year this particular unit is. I'm gonna guess maybe early 80s to mid 80s, but it is a Crown from the RS series. I haven't been able to find too much information actually online. The specific model number, actually you can't see here, let me go grab my light. So the specific model of this unit is a 40 RSTT. Appears to have about 3,500 hours on it, which I'm not really sure if that's high or low for forklifts. However, it does run and drive. The main battery on the unit itself was not taking a charge any longer. 24-volt system overall. It's a big, flooded lead acid battery. And actually the gentleman I purchased it from went ahead and gave me 2 large 24-volt chargers with it, which are going to be great. However, those are the units that aren't giving it any charge at this point. My guess is because the voltage on the pack is going to be so low currently that they're just kind of tripping out for safety, and they won't actually put any charge into it. So what I'm going to go ahead and try to do is pull that big battery pack out. A couple of the cells that I peeked at did look like they were low on electrolyte solution, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and take a look at all of them, and I got a couple jugs of distilled water just to top those off. And now unfortunately I do not have a smaller 24-volt charger, but I do have one of these decent NOCO Genesis 10 12-volt battery chargers. So what I'm hoping to do is basically just split the pack from the jumper cable and kind of charge each half of it. It should be they're all 2-volt cells in there, so just splitting it and charging basically 12-volt and 12-volt should be okay. And I'm hoping I can get some life back out of this specific battery. I did build a jumper pack out of just 2 12-volt car batteries to get the unit, and just kind of wire that into a jumper cable to the large 350 amp connection here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that side panel off, and the battery slides out. It is super heavy, so I do have a car jack here to make that happen, and I'm going to take a deeper look at it. All right, so that pulled out rather easily. Just the car jack under one end, and there's rollers basically on each side of the compartment where the battery sits. So it rolls decently well in there, even though it's very heavy. I don't know how much this particular one weighs. They have a stamp on the side typically. However, there's nothing stamped on this one. Probably about, I don't know, 500-600 pounds. But as you can see now that it's out, this 24-volt battery is made up of 12 2-volt cells, and they're all kind of connected together with a bus connection under those yellow caps there. The battery itself, doesn't look horrible. I'm no expert with lead acid batteries, but I've seen some pictures online of some electric forklifts that have been really neglected, and basically like this whole top cover is just covered in large kind of overflow corrosion nastiness basically. So what I'm going to go ahead and just kind of clean this off a little bit and take a peek under each of those red caps, which is the fill cap, and that'll give me a better indication of the current level of electrolyte in each cell. There's actually a handy little decal over here on the side with the battery rebuilder for this particular pack left that kind of talks about adding and then checking your electrolyte solution. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of take a look and see what's in there, and then we'll take it from there. I got 4 gallons of distilled water if I need to top it off. Well, as I suspected, 9 of the 12 cells here are low on solution. I don't know if I can get you to see, you can kind of see down there. Basically, looks as if there's a kind of red cap that's going to be sitting above the lead itself, and all of these that I've left open here, I can't see any solution basically flooding that cap. The other 2 on the end here that were connected to the terminal posts are basically topped off well, and then this other one here has enough in it still. So what I suspect is possibly the guy I bought it from just threw some water in there on the end quickly to fill those up. I have no idea how long these have been low, how much someone's tried to charge it while they've been low, but water is cheap enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and just top them all off. And then like I said, I'm gonna basically split the pack. Looks like if I take this here bus bar off, hopefully I can disconnect that from those 2 cells, and then that'll give me essentially 2 12-volt batteries that I can try hooking up my charger to and see if it will take any charge. cells ended up taking a lot less water than I thought they might. Only use maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of a gallon, and they're all topped off now right to basically just over the top of the plates. So what I'm going to go ahead and take this cover off here and see. Hopefully I can split this bar between here easily. I'm not sure how they're connected underneath, but that'll be the last step before I can try to hook up the charger to them. So that is too bad. It looks like these particular plates on top of each of the cells are, I don't know, soldered or just kind of joined together with some hot lead there. So that's not going to be as easy to disconnect and charge each half and half. At this point, I'm just gonna double check the voltage. Last time I checked the voltage on the pack, it was about like, I don't know, 8 to 9 volts. So my next thought is if I actually just connect the charger to the whole pack itself, it should charge it up to at least 12 volts. You know, it's not going to be fully charged at all at that point, but at least it'll get me to a point. Then I'll have to do a little bit more research and see if I can disconnect those, or look at getting a small 24 volt charger, or go ahead and try to hook up one of these two units here to see if I can get any power out of those. I wanted to try to avoid that at first just because those are going to dump a lot of amps into the battery pack, or try to, and I was hoping to kind of just do a nice slow trickle charge to try to bring the pack back to life more gently, but we will have to see. I am back putting in some more time on the old forklift here. I have the battery reconnected to the charger. Apologies in the lighting here, as the electrical system is basically disconnected at this place at the moment. It's under a bunch of work at the current time. So we have an extension cord running out to just a desktop power supply. It's kind of the best thing I have at the moment that's going to be able to push the voltage high enough to try to get the correct 24 volt charge into this pack. I have it pretty much maxed out. Also, it only will basically top out about 30 volts and 3 amps. So currently I have it basically pumping about 125 watts into the battery. It's been doing that for about an hour, and I know that's going to be a very slow charge, but I'm going to leave it there for as long as I'm working on this thing today, just to see where it brings it back up at. And while that's sitting there, I'm over here taking a look at the insides of the unit. This particular unit basically has kind of 3 large electric motors in it. This black unit here basically drives the main propulsion wheel down there on the bottom there. I believe this second motor over to the right is the main hydraulic pump, and I'm not 100% sure. There's another motor kind of buried up over there, kind of atop of the main tank that I believe to be the hydraulic tank. I'm not 100% sure what that one runs, so I'm just kind of diving into it a little bit more, getting my familiarity with it and seeing how everything goes. The first item on the list that I wanted to check was the actual fluid of the hydraulic system. There is no indication of any sort of dipstick or anything on the particular unit around to actually check the level of the fluid. So if anybody knows, drop a comment down below. It'd be great to find out if there's an easier way to keep an eye on the fluid. However, what I did was I went ahead and just popped off this top cover. This cover here is basically just a filter, and then just just a fill plug. It has 6 screws just around it, so I went ahead and pulled that off to take a look down inside of the tank. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see, but I do have level fluid. You can kind of see down in there, basically those weld marks there. It's at kind of the second weld mark, which is about, I don't know, 5 inches or so from the top. So it definitely has fluid in it, and I would say that's probably enough fluid to kind of safely move it about and test out all its functions once I do have power on it. But power is still the problem. While I have this open, everything else in here, to my eyes, looks pretty good. Everything's pretty dry. You know, it's a little bit dusty, but it's been sitting in our house for many years. All the grease fittings looks like they've been recently greased. You know, everything's wet, tacky. But yeah. So other than that, I'm going to go ahead and pop that filler back on as I continue to wait for it to charge. Now, something I want to be able to use this forklift for is to basically ride it up myself, to work up on basically in the high parts of the ceiling here. Granted, I know that's probably not totally the safest way to do things. However, I want to save some money from rentals on a scissor lift. So what I went ahead and did and just grabbed a bunch of hardwood pallets. This particular forklift has a little bit of a narrower base, so it needs what I guess is like a European standard. It's kind of like a 32-inch wide pallet. And I got a bunch of other spare parts over there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is kind of rip these apart and screw and glue them all back together to make a nice safe man platform to put on the front of this unit. That way, when I have a helper, basically we can work together to work on higher spots in the ceiling for the projects we need to get done. So go ahead and start digging into these pallets and just see the best configuration for them. To be able to better size up the man lift here, I'm actually going to go ahead and go grab the spare battery pack that I had rigged up to this unit to power it a little bit, just to kind of rearrange it, probably spin it around, get the forks up in the air, just so I can measure off and get those correctly sized and tight onto the front of the unit. Alright, so I got my makeshift charger moved and threw the car jack under the far end of the battery as I had it still resting on kind of the edge of the forklift unit itself. And I got my jump pack hooked up. My lights, I can show you guys a little better. So got the jump pack hooked up, basically just 2 car batteries sent in series, giving us 24 volts, and then a set of jumper cables hooked to that up to the main power connection. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get it powered on. I'll have to get those pallets out of the way, and then I'm just going to try to sneak it to the side to get the rest of the battery pack out of the unit itself. Go ahead and throw a cinder block under there just to support it and have that battery sit there. And then I'll flip the whole forklift unit itself around, probably take those charges off also. All right, so I just moved the jumper pack into the main area where the full-size battery is supposed to go, which looks a little bit funny given how small those two batteries are compared to the full-size one that's in there. But as I was saying about the fork width on this unit, basically that's a standard size pallet there, but you can see the outriggers are essentially in line with the outside of the pallet, which doesn't allow it to fully sit down on the ground. And like I said, I don't know if this is more of like a European style unit or if it's just a smaller unit, you know, designed for a warehouse where dropping a pallet directly on the floor is never really a thing that they do. It'd just be on, you know, racks and higher racks and then down into trucks basically. But I mean, all said and done, it's not going to be a huge issue. I'm just going to go ahead and get myself a bunch of smaller pallets that I can use for storing stuff if I need to set it on the floor. But then other than that, we should be good. I'm going to go ahead and just drive around here a little bit and just see how it operates. So confusing to drive. Well, so there you go. So this thing does go ahead and drive itself around. A little bit jerky. It's gonna definitely take getting used to, given the style of steering that it has. I've never driven anything like this before, where you're standing sideways and you have your steering wheel joystick here, and then your other controls over there. But the unit itself does go all the way up in the air, you know, which at the end of the day, that's the main job of a forklift. Has basically 4 big pistons on the inside of there. Kind of an interesting setup. They all look nice and clean up inside, and the whole unit itself is very clean, other than, you know, being a little bit dusty. I think it's really just sat inside of a warehouse basically its entire life. So it's going to do the job that I need it for perfectly. We still have more work to do on the battery itself over here. I'm gonna have to let that sit on this charger for a very long time. Probably actually gonna have to get one of the bigger chargers here hooked up eventually. The only thing that I was worried about initially was the voltage itself was so low for either of these large chargers. They essentially basically just wouldn't turn on and give it any voltage. So I wanted to try to bring the pack up itself before plugging the higher amperage charger into it. At this point in the video, I'm going to go ahead and focus on showing what I did to build this man lift platform that I'm going to throw on the front of the forks. Basically, I just went ahead and ripped through a bunch of pallets to get a bunch of free wood and then secured it back together. So stay tuned to see what I did. All right, so I'm making quick and dirty progress on this pallet man lift device that I'm gonna throw on the front of the forklift there. Just basically beefed up the original pallet itself with a bunch of additional cross members screwed and glued down, and now I'm gonna go ahead and put some pieces of plywood that I found off some other pallets right on top of it. I'm gonna try to basically do this for free with a bunch of pallet parts. Alright, so the platform is coming along. Basically I have the whole based together with the core of that single pallet, and then I reinforced it a bunch with a bunch of extra layers and then plywood on top. And I have these two end supports for kind of to hold the end of a horizontal rail back to the actual frame of the forklift itself. I'm probably going to add another vertical support just kind of in the middle there. Just have to make sure it's kind of out in front of the wheels just so it can go all the way to the ground flat to load and unload. But we're almost there with it. that's gonna just about do it for this video. At this point, it's a bit of a waiting game to see how much life is actually gonna come back into the battery pack. If you liked the video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next one.